Hello everybody, it's James here, Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 111. For goodness sake, where does the time go, Dutch?
111 episodes.
I know.
Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought we could put up with each other or you with me for over 2 years at this point?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But have faith. I always say, the Apostle Paul said, I'm going to be a little biblical this morning. The Apostle Paul says the just shall live by faith alone. And that's one of the very few biblical scriptures that I know, other than what was in that movie I saw with these two guys trying to kill this other guy.
Like Mel Gibson one.
No, it was Travolta and you know who I'm talking about?
I know John Travolta is, but I don't know what film you're talking about. Oh, you're thinking like Face Off or something with Nicolas Cage?
No, it was John Travolta was in it.
Yeah, but John
I think it was, and this is when he did the dance. I think this is when he made his
Pulp
comeback.
Fiction, for goodness sake. Yes.
Yes. And what was the other guy's name? I can't remember his name.
Well, there's loads of them in it. Bruce Willis and Samuel
Not
L.
Bruce
Jackson.
Willis. No,
Samuel L. Jackson's partner. Yeah.
Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
He's the one who quoted the scripture.
Yes.
But
But he misquotes it.
It don't matter.
Sounds good.
He sounded so good doing it, and he's talking to the guy. Then he shot and killed him, I guess. I don't know. But that's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a fan of his?
I'm going to embarrass myself here. I hadn't seen Pulp Fiction until maybe 2 years ago. I was just...
What?
I'd only seen...
What are you, culturally deprived?
Well, apparently so. It's like, I'm one of those people who cannot sit still through a movie. It's just too long. So,
this was so interesting. You'd enjoy it.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it.
It's a great film. I watch it every year. And because, I thought the performances by both of them were just great. And it's such an enjoyable movie for me. I watch it at least once a year.
The first Tarantino film I actually watched was Django Unchained. And that is a great film. I love Django Unchained.
Yeah, that's a good one too. But
I'm trying to
Tarantino, he's done some good stuff. All right, continue. We're talking about wrestling here.
Oh yeah, good. Yes, wrestling. Okay, we're going to do the intros really quickly because we have a ton of news, including you have been brought up this week as well. We'll find out about that in a minute.
Oh, I got a lot to say about that.
Oh, excellent. Right, so the quick intro is Pro Wrestling Tees. We've actually got a new design on Pro Wrestling Tees as well. Go and check that out. We're on Facebook, Storytime with Dutch Mantell. We have merchandise as well. I've got 2 books. World According... No, hang on, that's Dutch's book. Owen Hart. I'm looking at your books. One on Owen Hart, one on The Rock. Links are in the description. Buy them, for God's sake. Dutch has got 2 books as well. Tale from a Dirt Road and The World According to Dutch. If you want them unsigned, go to Amazon. The links below. If you want them signed, you go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. He also has certificates. He also has hats he's selling, signed and all that kind of affair as well.
Diplomas.
Yep, the diplomas, I call them certificates. It's like a swimming certificate. No, a diploma from the University of Dutch, for goodness sake. There is one. Here is an example.
That is my cover for the diploma.
Very good.
And let me see a diploma here. Oh, here it is. There it is right there. Can you see it well?
Shannon Wilburn.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
That's a leftover one anyway. But... actually, you can put it on the wall, and it looks great. So
make sure you give them the right address, though, because I gave Dutch my old address. So
you hadn't got yours yet?
No, I gave you my old address. So I've had in my old porch a thing that says we couldn't deliver this parcel. Contact so and so, and I thought I didn't put 2 and 2 together that was probably the thing that I'm missing because everything I've ordered from Amazon has come. So that'll be the thing that I've missed out. Anyway, the other thing is the Stevie Richards show out every Friday after Storytime with Dutch Mantell, of course, quite a few hours afterwards. Doing very, very well. I think we're gaining 500 subscribers a day on it at the moment. We're sort of rollicking along with that show, yeah. Over 30,000 subs already. And
it took me a couple hours to subscribe 500 times last week.
That's a lot of browsers you had to open, let me tell you as well. And the main thing as well, questions for dutch@gmail.com. If you have a poser that you would like me to put to the Dirty Dutchman, the crafty veteran from Oiltrough, Texas, for our Tuesday shows, Ask Dutch anything. All right, then, let's get to what everybody wants to hear straight off the bat.
First of all, when you start covering the news, I want to say one thing about the Olympics. I don't usually say anything about the news, and their opening ceremonies, to me, pissed off half the world.
Oh, it's awful.
Terrible. I'm saying, what does this have to do with the Olympics? Nothing. And then they said, it's supposed to be a depiction, I guess, of the Last Supper. And it was just, it was a terrible depiction. One guy there actually had his testicle sack outside his shorts. And I'm thinking, what the hell has gone wrong with the world? Is it me or is it the world? But anyway, and I'm thinking, this was a shot at religion and Christians in particular. And I'm thinking, would they do that with the Muslim religion? Would they do that with the Hindu religion? But even one of the Muslim, a big leader in the Muslim world, said that pissed them off because Jesus Christ is mentioned in their Bible. So they know, they all talk about the same people. But anyway, it pissed me off. I basically quit watching the Olympics, and I love the Olympics. But I just want to register my concern there and my displeasure. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who agree with me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think basically everyone did, because I was watching with my wife and my wife's friend. And I'll show this the thing first. You won't see it, Dutch, but I actually got sent this after I walked out of the room. It was just a blue Smurf ball sack. And anyway, the point is that who...
and who does that?
Yeah, exactly. Who is this for? I'm not bothered about the religious aspect. How is this entertaining me? Because it's nothing to do with sports, nothing to do with the Olympics, it's nothing to do with culture. It's just, and here's the thing: here's what they beat you to death with, right? Is if you criticize it anyway, oh, well, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, or whatever it is. It's like, no, it's shit. It's shit. And
no kidding.
And no one wants to see it.
And yeah, they had a bunch of transsexuals or transgenders or whatever they're called. I don't give a crap what they are. Just quit pushing it on everybody, because I don't think you're helping your cause at all.
Right. First things first, you made the news, and here is why. Let me just tee up the video 1 second. Here we go. Here's the song. Well, let me just tee up first briefly for the audio listeners. WWE NXT on the Great American Bash. Joe Hendry of TNA, well, he's basically WWE now, has made a little song. Anyway, he talks about Shawn Michaels first, and then Booker T is really Scottish. Then they have a Photoshop of Booker T in his kilt, and he's very amused. And then this little verse goes something like this.
Now let's talk Joe Coffey, because there's a story I could tell. And he claims that he's from Scotland, but he's the son of Dutch Mantell.
You hear Booker T's little noise at the end.
So that's Joe Coffey beside me?
Apparently, he's your son. Do you recognize him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he looks like a bastard kid anyway. But I think, I don't know what brought that on, but, I enjoyed it, and the people knew, they knew who I was. I think a lot of them probably listened to this podcast. So, and I got so many emails and text over that. Hey, they shouted you out on NXT and this, that, and the other. But NXT is much, much better today than it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better. So, and I don't watch their show, but I think that Shawn Michaels, I think he's one of probably the most qualified head guys to head that thing up, because he's teaching them a lot. So, Joe Hendry, thanks for the shout out. And Mr. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, because I got a ton of messages and tags on Twitter and that kind of thing saying, hey, Dutch was on NXT. Anyway, I didn't understand it, and then I watched it, and I was baffled because I don't know if this is the first time they've ever called you Dutch Mantell on WWE TV. You've been Uncle Zebekiah and Zeb Coulter, but have you ever been called Dutch on WWE TV?
Never. Well, I think maybe they said that John Cena said something about it one day when he was talking to me. Said, "You look a lot like," and it sounded like something he would say. "You look like a guy I knew one time named Dutch Mantell. Do you know him?" And I had to say, "No, I don't. You know, I think I just had to completely ignore that and go with it." So, but I kind of like that. So. Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. They used my name without permission. What's that mean?
Yeah, but they put a photo of Zeb Coulter up.
Yes.
But not Dutch Mantell.
That they did. And they own Zeb Coulter. That's why I never thought you'd have to trademark your own real name. But if you go to the WWE and use your real name, they own it. So you may have trouble later on because you can't even get ownership of your own name.
I think you temporarily sign it over. Apparently, if I think that's how it works. You temporarily sign over your wrestling. Let's say Samoa Joe, who goes over as Samoa Joe, or Eddie Number, or Stephanie Vaquero, or whoever it is. Yeah, I think you have to sign over the rights to use your name for merchandise and TV kind of
forever.
Stuff. No, until you leave, and then.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you seen those WWE contracts? I mean, they were like, the first ones that I signed were really short and said you couldn't work after you quit for 90 days for another promotion. Of course, somebody took that to court and proved that, well, no, you can't stop somebody from making a living for 90 days. But if you just read it, even being a non-legal mind, you can say, this is bullshit. Excuse my language, but it is. And if they had to say the name Zeb Coulter, I kind of like the name, but, they can have that name. I don't,
They can. Well, it was under the WWE ban. Before we get off Joe Hendry, right? So the WWE YouTube channel put up the full concert of that as well. And I was just trying to look there and I haven't got to it yet. I think like the first or second top comment is, I can't wait for Dutch Mantell to talk about this on the podcast. So someone's given us a good plug on that as well. That's good.
Yeah, well, good. So, and you got a lot of emails or messages about it?
I did as well. So just to follow up on that. So turning his attention to Joe Coffey of Gallus, Hendry mocked Coffey for his appearance and that he looked like the son of Dutch Mantell. Unfortunately, Hendry's mocking of Coffey and Gallus led to the group interrupting the concert before the encore. Confronting Hendry in the ring, Gallus beat down the TNA star and struck him with a guitar shot to close out the segment. So apparently, old Joe Coffey here has taken umbrage, is a word that you like, I know.
Yes, I do.
Being called your son. How about that?
It's good. And they beat the crap out of him, too, as they should have done. So he needs to keep the old saying is keep a civil tongue in your head. And he did. And he ran his mouth out there with that guitar. And I'll say one thing, Joe Hendry can play a guitar pretty well, too. He's not bad.
Well, in fairness, he did 4 chords. And I could do that.
He did what?
He did 4 chords.
Well, that's all you need.
Yeah.
See, that's what makes country music so good. You only use 3 and maybe the off chord. That's all you got to use. If you know C, D, and G, you can play country music. That's all you got to do. And then learn to strum it. I play guitar,
Yeah, I know you sold your guitar.
I did. I sold a couple of them. And the guitar that I sold, here's the history on it. It was an old Jeff Jarrett guitar that they had bought a bunch of them in TNA to sell at the matches. So they probably got them for $30 a piece, probably $40, and it was a good guitar. Then they'd sell it for like $150, $200. But it would be signed, it would be autographed, Jeff Jarrett. You play too.
I do. I'm not actually going to play it, but so I'm told there are only 4 chords you need for a pop song, and I think it's somewhere between D, E minor, A minor, and G or C.
Yeah.
There's like those 5 chords. 4 of those is all you need for a hit song, and so many pop songs like "Don't Stop Believing," Journey. That's all. That's 4 chords. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that YouTube video somewhere? And it's one giant parody of every single pop song that uses the exact same 4 chords and the exact same progression.
Never saw that, but that's all you need anyway.
Oh.
You learned that I did when I first started learning to play. I remember my sister used to say, "Please put that guitar down. God, you're driving me nuts." Jing, jing, jing. And was in a small house anyway, so she couldn't sleep or anything else. But I did learn, and I'm I can't play now, but I say up to 10 years ago, I still messed around with it a little bit.
I'm going to get you a guitar for Christmas, and then we're going to do a concert. I'll play us out some Johnny Cash at the end of the show.
I met him one time.
Did you really?
Nashville Airport. Yep.
Did you really?
And he was a big guy too. He's about 6'3".
Really? I didn't think he was.
And
that big.
the Johnny Cash, the rumor about Johnny Cash, for those Americans who follow country music, is everybody thought he was in prison. He had been in prison before, but he never was in prison. He just did some concerts from prison. And that's how everybody thought. Because when you look at him, hell, he looks like he'd been there. He was a rough looking guy with that voice. I mean, you can't duplicate the voice. And he used to, and since I lived in Nashville, I lived in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which is where a lot of country music people live. It's like a little suburb north of Nashville. And every time I was leaving the town, there'd be those big buses or coming into town. You'd be running into them. And of course, their names are right over that big windshield, who they are. And they would be leaving town, going on tour or coming back from tour all the time. I bet I'd see like at least 5 buses a week.
What did Johnny Cash say to you? He go, "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash."
That's what he said. And, I just shook his hand and said, I told him I was a big fan and
smashed the guitar over his head.
But I didn't ask him for an autograph. I didn't do that. And he did say, "I know who you are." I don't know if he knew who I was or not, but I told him I was a fan. So I just wanted to meet him.
Good one. So,
another thing is Jerry Jarrett bought the house he used to live in.
So is that why Jerry Jarrett's got the biggest house, or did have the biggest house in Hendersonville at one point?
He had it looked like a mansion. It's what it looked like. And Jerry was very frugal in his money, and he didn't just buy the house. He borrowed the money or had the money, and he built it himself. He hired his own contractor, his own brick guy, his own laying the concrete, the roof guy. He hired all those people, and they come in, and when the house was finished, it was paid for.
So, I wish you did that with my house. It's been a nightmare, I'll tell you. Just before we get off, no, I've not even written it in this version of the damn script. Never mind then. Oh, okay. Forget it. We're going to move on. Tony Khan and Shane McMahon. So this is the other big news of the week. This is from The Observer. Shane McMahon is said to have met, there's a photo of him, with Tony Khan on Monday to discuss possibilities moving forward, Wrestle Talk and Fightful are reporting. The meeting was held in Arlington, Texas, where AEW is running a residency at the eSports Stadium until mid-August. In a statement issued to Bully Ray, Shane McMahon said, nearly said Vince, Tony and I were connected through a mutual friend, and we had a great meeting. We talked about many things, but mostly our shared love for the business and the rewards and challenges of working with family. I congratulated him on the 5-year anniversary of AEW and look forward to see how he evolves the business moving forward. So this all started from about a month ago. We were all having a bit of fun. We didn't really think it was going to happen. That Conrad Thompson was the one who actually advanced this theory that Shane had been, sending out feelers to certain people within AEW to maybe, get a meeting and that kind of thing. But Tony, at that time at least, had not met Shane. Apparently they have. So apparently they definitely have. There's a photo out there. What do you make of all this? And the photo,
wait a minute, the photo doesn't show Shane.
Oh, it does. In the top left corner. Yeah. Did you not notice?
That didn't even look like him to me. I don't know.
Okay.
So you got the picture?
I'll get the picture. 1 second. Okay, got it. There he is. Top left. Blood pressure going a mile a minute.
To me, it doesn't look like him.
Oh, it's him. It's him.
Where's his hair?
I think it's under that black square that says HDR.
No, he looks like he's down. Look up on his brow. It looks like he's damn cut his hair off, or somebody, whoever that is.
Yeah, I can see his grey hair peeking out. He's got a widow's peak now.
Okay, listen.
It is Shane, by the way.
Okay, I don't think anybody just popped in that room, click, and left, and they were looking at it. So was that... Apparently, it was leaked from Tony Khan. Everything got to be leaked. But I don't know what that does for. It just starts people talking. The old saying is even bad publicity is good publicity. But so the question is now, would Shane McMahon make an appearance in AEW? You think that's possible?
I think it's very possible. Well, there's two different schools of thought here. One, that Shane's looking to get back into professional wrestling and, he's got it in his blood and he wants to do something, whether it be a wrestler, God forbid, or, an authority figure or something like that. I don't know. The other theory, in fact, there's 3 theories. 1, as a performer. 2, as some sort of co-owner or get points in the company or something. 3, that he wants to make WWE jealous somehow, because he's apparently tried to get back into WWE and they're not interested. But maybe if AEW shows interest, then WWE will show interest again. So he might be doing that whole playing one promotion against the other to build interest in himself. What do you think's most likely?
Well, I'm going to agree with some of your points that he misses wrestling. He wants, and he likes it. It's in his blood since he was a little bitty baby, him being around wrestling. But since his dad left, now his dad can't block him. But you know who could block him? Triple H and Stephanie. So she's still there, right?
She's not officially part of the company anymore, no. But she has made a couple of appearances. I think she made one at WrestleMania.
So I don't see him trying to. I mean, Tony's got money, so he may be able to. This may be Tony's idea. I don't know. But I think Shane McMahon entering AEW would be a good thing if Tony would listen to him. Now, I don't know how he can book or not. The last I heard of him, he was in that Battle Royal at, what was it, SummerSlam?
No, it was Royal Rumble. He was trying to put himself over Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. And then that's when his dad fired him.
Yep.
We had to.
In that year, he made $900,000 and he didn't do anything. He was very highly paid, Shane McMahon. But
900,000.
Yeah, but the thing is that Shane has sold all his stock in WWE. He has no financial ties to the company whatsoever. He sold his stock years ago when he started trying to venture out on his own, and he was trying to do video on demand Netflix style stuff in China that never got off the ground, you know. So he's spent a lot of money chasing business opportunities that didn't pan out. So,
but I think if he did enter AEW and he had a little power and he could stop Tony from booking the way he's booking, AEW, all they need is some stories. They got the talent. I mean, the talent is it just needs to be, they just need to slow it down and tell some friggin' stories. That's what it is. That's why it's called entertainment. Because look, just compare WWE right now to AEW. It's night and day. And the bloodline, they got hot and they stayed with it. And now when Roman is coming back, it's going to explode, big time explode. So if they could do that, if they could tell a story, and then you can make a star. You can't make a star, and I've said this 1,000 times. This is 1,000 and the first time, 1,001 that I'm going to say it. You can't put a guy on TV on like Collision one week and then put him on the next week and put him over. Then you don't see him for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You got to stay with the story. Let's go back to the old Memphis days. The stories is what carried the territory. And now the stories changed a lot because we only had a 16-man crew. So you'd have to bring, I mean, if we didn't tell stories with each other, I mean, just going out there and wrestling, people go, they don't want to see wrestling. Really, basically, they don't want to see it. They want to see the story that has wrestling as the background. Now, it sounds, if you said that years ago, people say, oh, get out of here. It's wrestling. It's wrestling. I went to Florida one time, and somebody told me, I was riding with a guy, and he said, you got to go out there and you got to wrestle and you got to do this, because Florida was a wrestling territory. I always heard that. But then I went down there, and hell, I was thinking, hell, this is just like Memphis. It's no different. Just go out there and get yourself over, do your regular things that you did in Memphis. And yeah, people were the same. They would respond. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking to the peanut gallery, but you know, AEW, they have one thing blocking them from actually doing really, really well. It's stories. Tell some stories. Cut your crew down. Tell some stories.
It's funny that we're going to talk about stories actually a little later on with Bryan Danielson, and I'll explain why then. But they have stories. Here's the thing. What they don't have is they don't stick with the stories. And then and here's the other thing, and I'll explain why later. They have the characters themselves, the major characters have no integrity. The integrity of the characters changes. And it's wrong. It's like Steve Austin, if he just came out in like a dress one day, that would be, there's an extreme example, but that would be against the integrity of what you've believed in and what you believe this character is all about. It wouldn't make sense. AEW does that all the time. I'll explain why later. We're going to stick with Shane just briefly more. Are we going to stick with Shane? I mean, with AEW, I mean, we've had Edge going over, Mercedes Moné going over, Okada going over, and none of them have really made any difference whatsoever other than just sort of like take a lot of money out of Tony Khan's bank account.
What you're doing, you're taking a product that was already formed and perfected by another company and bringing it in and devaluing your own ownership of it. That's what they do. So all of a sudden, people don't remember Edge for what he did in AEW. They remember what he did in WWE.
Oh, well, he's having his greatest run ever in AEW, let's not forget.
That's according to Tony. Tony Khan said that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Tony Khan really is the master of doublespeak. He should be a politician. He can go out there and take and say it. Cornette said this the other day. I just heard this on his podcast. He says he can say it takes 4 times longer to say what he intended to say in his first sentence. And I don't think they're having discussions back and forth with him and Shane McMahon. He just wants that out there. But Shane would help. I would actually like to see Shane there, and I would actually watch it if Shane went in there, if he had some control. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
As far as the photo, quote unquote, leak, he was leaked, quote unquote, to Wrestle Talk. I can't stop saying quote unquote because, I mean, who else would have leaked it? It's obviously Tony Khan.
So anyway, if you think that was not a planned picture, I think I got some land I need to say you in. What'd you say, Georgia? Bung what?
That was
Don't
off
you say
air.
that?
That was off air. I said that.
Oh, you can't say that word.
It was a very rude word I said as well.
Yes, you did. So
okay, we're going to move on to some more AEW stuff. Bryan Danielson puts his career on the line. So aside from attempting to trademark recently, yes, Bryan Danielson made the announcement on AEW Dynamite this Wednesday that if he doesn't win the AEW heavyweight title from Swerve Strickland at All in Wembley, he will retire from wrestling. Dutch, that sure sounds familiar. Just 1 second. Here we go. He goes and wins the Owen Hart tournament. He wins the title at All in Wembley. This is me from 4 weeks ago. Like, you could do a big emotional thing where he says, if I don't win this title here, I retire.
Yeah.
And then he does win it. And then he says, I tell you what, the person who knocks me off the perch, the person who beats me for this title, not only wins the belt, but gets to say that they retired Bryan Danielson as well. And then he promises the title. I meant to stop footing. Huh.
Wow. Hey, we have said this before. You're the Nostradamus of pro wrestling.
No, I think I genuinely am getting to the point that I think they've stolen my idea.
They probably listen to the show. And you need to send them a bill. I'd send them a bill for at least $1,500. Say for stealing my gimmick. And you ought to go and trademark that real quick and say, if you use that, anything that quit stuff, you're going to have to owe me some money. But I don't know.
In all seriousness, I know Christian stole my joke from last year about Ric Flair. He definitely stole that. And some say,
what joke was it?
Oh, that Ric Flair in his last match looked like Weekend at Bernie's. Now, I know. I text my mate who I watched the Ric Flair's last match, and he confirmed that I was the one who did say it. And someone else, I'm sure, was saying, he did. Everyone was making that joke. I was like, no, they weren't. I made it up. And then Christian stole it. So I'm sorry, this is story time with James for a minute. Here's the problem, Dutch, is I said that 4 weeks ago, and I was wrong to say it. And I'll tell you why. Okay, so that's a good idea. Then you've got more jeopardy. But it's wrong, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to tell you exactly what should have happened. And you tell me, so this is booking with James. Let's see what you think as a season booker. Bryan Danielson, this is what actually happened. He won the Owen Hart tournament. So therefore, he got the championship match.
Okay, by winning the Owen Hart tournament, what does that entitle him to?
A world championship match against Swerve Strickland at All in Wembley. Here's the thing. He should have lost in the finals. And I'll tell you why. Will Ospreay should have won that tournament going over Bryan Danielson. He is, at the time, the AEW International Champion. The next week, Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson are in the ring. It's not a World Championship at All In. It is a World Championship match. Like Money in the Bank, you can choose it in the next 12 months or you can choose it whenever you want. Okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So instead of a fixed date, Will can choose whenever. Will says, I'd love nothing more than to win the belts in All in Wembley, in front of my hometown, and in front of my home country, cheering me on, but not this year. And then he says, who should get that title match is Bryan Danielson. And then Swerve comes out and says, well, I'm not going to give this title match to a guy who just lost. What's in it for me? That's when Bryan Danielson should say, okay, then I will put my career on the line. It's career versus title. If you beat me, then you get to say, the only person who ever gets to say it is you knocked off Bryan Danielson with your former WWE champion, etc. You will have that. Your legend will be cast in stone from there on. Swerve accepts the match. Bryan Danielson beats Swerve All In, and then he says, the person who beats me, I not only gets the belt, but they will be the person to retire me. I will retire when I lose the belt. Will Ospreay is the winner. He will challenge next year at All In, but until then, he feuds with MJF. Will should win at All In, maybe via DQ. The next pay-per-view, that MJF should win via interference. And then you can do tons of stuff after that. But the point is that it doesn't make sense for Bryan Danielson to put his career on the line for no reason, which is really what he did at AEW Dynamite. He's already got the championship match, so why say it?
You make a lot of sense. Bryan Danielson, him losing and never wrestling again is a big deal. So, and Wembley Stadium, it's a good place to have it. I would like to see Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. They've had a match already.
Oh, if they have, I'm not sure. I can't remember.
I think that would be one of my matches at Wembley. I think I would like to see that myself.
Yes, they did at Dynasty earlier this year. I'm sorry. Okay, I know where I was going with the other thing. MJF beats Will Ospreay for the title, maybe not at Wembley, but maybe down the line. But you could make Will Ospreay lose because the fans know that Bryan Danielson's going to win, and that's the happy moment. And then next year, Will Ospreay wins. But Will Ospreay's got the number one contendership, so he can lose the belt to MJF. And then he wants a rematch with MJF, and MJF refuses to give it him. And then Will can put up his number one title contendership spot with MJF to then have one final match and blow off that feud before he goes to All In next year and challenges whoever it is for the title, for the championship. So I'm booking a year ahead, man. That's a well better idea.
Well, see, we never booked a year ahead back in the old days. The most we would book ahead, how far you think we would book ahead?
Honestly, about 6 weeks.
Maybe. Sometimes 3 weeks. But it was really, and it was, in a lot of ways, it was good because it was more current. We didn't think about, oh, we'll do this big show. This is like March. Oh, we'll do this big show in November. No, we never really got that far ahead. It was, if it's March, the big show would be in April, and that's what we would shoot for. It would be immediate, so you could see if it worked or not. I don't think we couldn't do that because I wasn't taught to think that far ahead. But you do have to think ahead now. So
they've all got contracts, and the thing is, if one of them gets injured or whatever, then you've got a year really to think. Take a different route.
See, if one of them gets injured in a big match and you put all this effort and time in it, it's all for nothing, basically. Then you got to change it, and sometimes you may not put the guy with the same oomph or the same star power in that match. AEW has few stars. I think MJF, I guess, is a star now. You can't tell it by watching it.
Yeah, but he's one of the people whose character integrity means nothing anymore because he was a babyface and he got injured, then he came back, was immediately a heel for no particular reason. Now he's just doing his old shtick from last year, which it made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. And the same for Swerve Strickland. He's been a babyface for months after being a heel who was cheered. Now he's a babyface, and then on Wednesday he was trying to be a heel again against Bryan Danielson, and people weren't reacting right to it because the integrity of character was wrong. And then afterwards, Bryan Danielson goes to the back. Jeff Jarrett, who's now a babyface because of the Owen Hart interview he did a few weeks ago, if you remember that, sort of like gives him a high five and says, you go get him, champ. And then Bryan Danielson totally heels on him, who's the babyface. And so, do you know what I mean? Everyone switches from week to week at this point just to fit, I don't know, the stream of consciousness.
Who's booking it?
Not Tony, obviously.
Okay, there's your answer. Listen, the booker takes the heat. If it's a great match and idea, actually, the wrestlers take the credit. Oh, what a great match. But if it didn't draw anything, or the booker takes all the heat because the booker, basically, the person who sat down and penciled this in, takes the heat if it's bad. But if it's good, the wrestlers, booking is a thankless job. It really is, unless you're getting paid by a percentage. And then their thanks are, if it does well, you reap the benefits of it. But I don't like the whole angle. I don't even like the whole company, because to me, it's like sitting down watching. I'm not affected one way or the other because he's not pushing anybody. Nobody is really jumping out at you. Okay, take WWE. Let's just take the girls division. Tiffany Stratton is going to be a star. And you can tell she's going to be a star by the way they're handling her. And Nia Jax, they have done wonders with her. Now they're kind of got some interest in her. And everybody now, Tiffany and Nia, that's the way everything is going. They're going to finally meet. And that's probably what pay-per-view are we at now? SummerSlam?
Yeah.
By WrestleMania, I think it'll be Nia and Tiffany. And then, another angle I like in WWE right now is the Dominic and the
Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley.
Liv Morgan. When he told her a week or so ago or whatever, I hate you, and she left crying. I mean, that turned a lot of people toward Liv. But now at the pay-per-view coming up, if they turn on Rhea, that's going to be a hot angle. It really is. That's going to help Dom and help everybody. So, that's probably the match I'm looking most forward to at SummerSlam.
And just to give you, in the women's division in AEW, Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May, what's the one thing they shouldn't have done is try and sort of drag Toni Storm slightly away from the Timeless character that everybody loves. And now
why would they do that?
Because they're sort of changing her outfit a little bit and trying to make, I don't know. It's night and day. It really is. It's not like we're trying to say boo AEW, but it's just like you've got a template on the other channel of how to build a feud properly, and they're just doing everything. They're doing it the Vince McMahon thing. So, oh, no one remember what happens next week. Let's just figure it out and whatever. No continuity. Anyway, we're moving on. Ric Flair, our favorite.
Oh, do we have to talk about him?
Oh yeah, we've got two subjects on Ric Flair.
My God,
he's selling a robe. And it's everybody's favourite subject, of course. But in what is possibly another sign that all the business ventures that Ric Flair was involved with, selling his name to, are not paying out like they want to, where Nature Boy is selling one of his original robes that he famously wore in his entrances. Let me just get the page up 1 second. So it says here, Ric Flair, match worn. Photo match personally owned Nature Boy Jungle Design Robe Resolution. So, just so you know, on there, it's currently at $80,000, this item. What do you think of that?
$80,000. Well, I think the price is, that green doesn't do that robe any good.
It's hideous. It's the most ugliest robe I've ever seen.
Yes, but look at it's got a lot of, it's an intricate robe, but $80,000. I don't get that. I mean, do people invest in this just to look at it? You think?
I think they walk around naked in
it. Oh, it's a nice looking robe. You hate it.
Oh, I hate it.
It is very intricate. It's gold and green and Nature Boy, and it's a historical robe, but $80,000. I might go on there myself and bid $90,000,
and then not pay it.
And not pay it. What are they going to do? So,
look at this. I mean,
but I have trouble believing it. It's just went up, and it started at 10,000, right? Then 20, and then 30, and it's all going up. Why would you go up $10,000 at a time?
Oh, it's probably minimum. That's probably the minimum they'll let you go up. They won't let you do it like by, $10 a bid or something silly like that.
Really? They won't let you go up $500?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll be trying to drive up the price. Let's just have a good look at it. Lions, cheetahs, tiger heads. That's one thing. But here's the thing that I really enjoyed was, more lions and tigers and cheetahs and leopards and that kind of thing. And then right in the middle, a giraffe.
What the hell? In a tree, in a bush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a snake up there? What is that? No, that's what it looks like.
At the top middle where Nature Boy is, it just looks like sort of like just brown muck sort of spilling down as well.
So you don't like this robe?
I think it's maybe the ugliest robe that Ric Flair's ever worn. I wouldn't bid on this one. Like, if you're going to bid on the Ric Flair robes of oops, ignore right move, times gone by, you want, like the one that you retired in, the big blue one or the black one or the pink one, or, there's tons of them that are great. That's horrible, that one.
I wonder why he put that one up. He probably doesn't like it himself.
Maybe.
Doesn't mind getting rid of it.
I guess so.
But it is a hell of a price. So
how much do you think it'll go for, in all seriousness? It's on $80,000 now.
When's the time limit?
Oh, I've just got rid of the thing.
I don't think it'll go much over that.
Let me just get rid of right move. House hunting. Current bid, $19 shipping and handling, of course. Ends in 16 days. Crikey. So there's a lot of time.
Well, see, I think you have a limit to the number of wrestling fans or collectors that are out there.
I've got that kind of money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, and I don't think he's going to get $80,000 to me. I don't think, unless, what have you found out that Tony Khan is the one bidding on that?
Who's a big Ric Flair fan that we think might have that?
Well, 80,000, just think about it. Who would pay, even if you're a billionaire? Why would you pay $80,000 for that robe?
Wouldn't it be funny if Conrad Thompson bought it in the end? Just walk around next door and pick it up.
Maybe, well, hey, I wouldn't put this past Rick. He's bidding on it himself.
Oh, it's very common that, driving up the price of...
Isn't that little unethical?
Well, it's illegal, yeah. It's just market fixed. It's price fixed.
It is illegal?
Yeah, of course it is.
Why don't you bid on it? I'm going to try to bid $80,000, $80,100.
And put my name on it.
Yeah, I'm going to put your name on it. Or put
fair.
Vince. I'm going to put Vince's name on it.
Yeah.
Miss McMahon.
We should put Charles Robinson's name on it because he's a big Ric Flair fan.
Yeah. I'll put some name on it.
We'll do.
But I'm going to check that out. You think that the increments that you can go up on the next bid are $10,000?
Yeah, 5 or 10. I mean, it was 65,000 when I saw it beforehand, so a couple of days ago. So maybe it goes up in increments of 5.
Maybe. I'm gonna check it out. Where is it on eBay?
No, it's on Goldins, which I've never
what?
heard of. Goldins, apparently, I've never heard of it before, but that's what
I never heard of it either.
Yeah. So
so it's some out of the way type bidding organization. Goldins.
I'm gonna give you a story briefly. There's I don't know if you ever saw on the news a couple of years ago. There was almost like this gold rush of old computer games, like the original Mario on the NES in 1985. Whatever. It's going for $2 million. A sealed copy. That kind of nonsense. It's graded. Anyway, it turns out that the Heritage Auctions, right, that was selling all these, were being bought by the owner of Heritage Auctions and then re-auctioned. And then every single time it'd go up, and the grading company, it's called Wata Gaming, I think, was owned or partially owned by the same guy who owned Heritage Auctions. So he was driving up the price himself, and then trying to drive up interest. It's a very common tactic.
Well, that's a way to do it.
Yeah, there's money in it.
Because by the time somebody catches on, well, I think they catch on with that high price anyway. I think your interest level is only down to, at those prices, to 1 or 2 people. I think. I don't know, but it's just crazy to me.
Next thing, Ric Flair again. He posted a photo recently and he didn't say it was a joke. I'm going to bring the photo up now and you can have a good look at it. 1 second. Okay, we're back. It's not Ric Flair and Mike Tyson and what looks like Val Venus. It's this photo of Sylvester Stallone, John Travolta, and in the middle, Ric Flair. What do you make of that? It says, throwback with Sylvester Stallone and John Travolta, woo. What do you think of that photo?
Well, I guess, it's Photoshopped because I've seen this picture before. Ric Flair wasn't in there. So now he is in there. And he puts it up, but didn't say anything about him not being there. He just said, what about this picture, I guess?
It just says a throwback. So it's not like it's a joke, or he's not presenting it as a joke.
Well, he's not presented as a joke, but I don't see anything wrong with it. But it didn't look particularly like it's real anyway. So I don't know.
So there's the original.
I've seen it before. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was on the set of Staying Alive.
Are you saying that Rick is indulging in a little bit of misdirection?
Well, I'm wondering if he's posted it as a joke, he's posting it thinking that he's fooling people, or he's posted it because he can't remember what he did in the 80s and he genuinely thought that happened.
Well, first of all, it's not Rick posting it anyway.
Oh, no, well, it's a social media guy.
It's his guy. And Rick just sees it on there and woo! And he probably replies to it himself. So, but I tell you, I think you brought in the dubious character of Ric Flair. You brought it more to light because he's misdirection. And that $80,000, I'm not getting over that. And I want to know, is going to go another 16 days before they're going to award that winner? I'm going to start watching that.
Yeah.
If it goes up.
Next, we're going to go into some WWE stuff. WrestleMania in London. This will be a fairly quick one. It doesn't strike me as a coincidence after there's some brief social media interaction between the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and Triple H on Twitter. And it's basically, let's talk. So they did talk. Triple H and Nick Khan flew over to London to meet with London Mayor Sadiq Khan to discuss WrestleMania plans. I don't think it's a coincidence. Mere weeks before AEW's All In show at Wembley. But...
hey, Sadiq Khan, I think he's related to Tony.
He's the same. Well, he's smaller. He's like a bird, isn't he? He's like a frail sort of pigeon.
Who? Sadiq?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Sadiq Khan. And him and Tony would match up. They're both like not big guys. So
yeah, Sadiq Khan on the photo though, because they've given him like a little WWE like replica belt. He looks like a Make-A-Wish kid in the photo because you got the picture. I'll find the photo. 1 second. Okay, re-recording. This is off the Sky Sports website. There we go.
Yeah, he's a little bitty thing.
I looked it up. He's somewhere between 5'4" and 5'5".
Damn, he's teeny tiny. You know who Nick Khan looks like a little bit in that picture?
Go on.
He looks like Shane a little bit.
You think?
Don't you think?
I don't think so. He sort of looks like a Sopranos type. You know, he's got like the hair like scraped back and that kind of thing.
You're saying he looks like a gangster.
I think he's got a bit of gangster look to him, I think, Nick Khan.
Yeah, he does. He does.
See if there's any more photos. No, not on that one. But yeah, that was basically it, Dutch. I just wanted to...
okay, so what pay-per-view are going to take will they take to London, do you think?
WrestleMania is what they're aiming for.
Okay.
It can't be next year because that's Las Vegas. I'm not sure it could be the year after. I don't know, but 2027, who knows?
Well, it's a hot market, and if WrestleMania comes in, that's an automatic sellout the first day, probably the first 30 minutes.
Next.
So, okay, how do ticket scalpers work? They just buy a bunch of them the first day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then they put them back for resale.
Yeah, that's how it works.
And they're outrageous prices because it's sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the right idea, but that's almost theft by deception and timing, isn't it? If they buy $1,000 ticket, they'll sell that thing for $4,000 or $5,000.
Hey, do you know this? This isn't wrestling. This is UFC. UFC's got a pay-per-view coming up in the. What's the big globe? Is it called? It's not called the Globe, or is it the Globe in Las Vegas? What's that called?
I think it is the Orb, not the Orb. I don't know what it's called.
Anyway, whatever it is, the big sphere. Sphere. Is it the Sphere?
Sphere. Yeah, that's what it is.
Do you know UFC is having their first and only show in the Sphere in Las Vegas? Do you know what the cheapest ticket price is to get in?
$3,500.
Yeah, you're not far off. $2,700, and they've all sold out. So you can't get into that show for less than $3,000 now. It's crazy.
Okay, now a ticket, scalp ticket would be how much? Double?
Well, it depends if it sells out or not. I mean, if no one wants to buy the tickets, then
you just said it was sold out.
No. They've sold out all the nosebleed section tickets.
Oh, how many will it seat?
The Sphere? I don't know. One second. You speak for a second while I find out.
Okay, the Sphere. To me, it's an amazing structure because they have all those LEDs on the wall, and it looks like you're there, and it's around like three sides. So your sensory perception, if they played something going by, you can see it out of the corners of your eye. So it's almost like you're there. And I've never seen anything like it. Of course, that's the only thing like it in the world, but it is an amazing, phenomenal structure.
That loses a hell of a lot of money. And it seats, including the floor, 20,000.
How can it seat 20,000? I don't know.
There's Wikipedia I'm looking at. 20,000, 18,600 seated, 20,000 if you include the floor. So, for UFC or wrestling, whatever, it'd be 20,000 easy. Mm-hmm. If they didn't have the big stage.
Okay, let me say this. When do you think, WWE won't go there. They'll go to a stadium.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't go there for WrestleMania, I don't think, no.
But I would like to see a wrestling show in that building.
Would you pay $2,700?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't pay $27. But $2,700. And this is another thing that you said, the MMA prices are through the roof. WWE prices sometimes are through the roof. So I'm wondering, where is the ceiling on these prices? Or do they have a ceiling, or they'll just take it as high as it can go?
They're pricing people out. UFC way more than WWE, but WWE are pricing people out like crazy. I mean, a family of four, if they wanted to get terrible seats, for Clash at the Castle in Glasgow just a couple of months ago, they would have had to have paid, what, $1,500-$1,600 for a family of four for the worst seats in the house.
And ridiculous. That's unaffordable, especially in today's market, I think. I don't know. Maybe. Do you think I would pay that? Would you pay that?
No. Even if I was a multimillionaire, I wouldn't pay it out of principle.
I wouldn't either. I would not. If I had $1 billion, I wouldn't pay it out of principle, even if I really wanted to go. So hell, what are the Olympic tickets?
I'm glad you asked. So euros and dollars are more.
And wait a minute, I want to tell everybody that wasn't a setup question because I just asked that out of the clear blue. How's this mustache today, James?
Pretty good. It's pretty good. It's curling up on that end, the one that you were just circling with.
There it is.
With that, I think it was €400, which is basically $400 just to go see 1 day's worth of the gymnastics. $400 a seat.
But if I wanted to see it, I could live with that. It's once every 4 years, and you can go see the greatest in the world.
And the Smurfs ball sack as well.
Oh yeah. You had to get back on that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did they actually tape or film or present that opening ceremony? It looks like the Last Supper.
I think it was on the river. It's like maybe the River Seine or something. I don't know.
So was it on a boat?
I think that was on like a bridge going over the river. I think I probably got the river wrong, but I was never good at geography, I'll tell you. I'm good at countries, but I'm not good at mountains or rivers, I'll tell you. Right, anyway, we're going to move on. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre taking photos with the opposition. Punk had a photo of himself with Brody King and Darby Allin, but the biggest one is Drew McIntyre having a photo with Jungle Boy Jack Perry and posting it and aiming it sort of directed at CM Punk with the caption, "Cry us a river." So let me just get the photo up, Dutch.
That was great marketing. And we'll talk about this in just a minute. But now WWE is freely and openly expressing that there's other companies out there that present wrestling. And I thought that Vince, for years and years and years, I guess he thought that if you don't mention them, that people, you could almost hide the fact that there were some other companies out there. But I'm glad they're taking notice of that, because this is an acknowledgement of the social media, that everybody knows it happened. If you're a wrestling fan, everybody knows, and you read wrestling news, everybody knows it's happened. But I'm glad to see that they're openly admitting TNA is out there, the other companies are out there. So now they can get more exposure on their talent coming in. And I think it benefits everybody, because WWE, I didn't want it isolated just to WWE. Give me the news all over the world and bring these people in. That's the way wrestling used to be. Because if you were coming to Memphis and you worked in Dallas, well, they'd send all the Dallas stuff into Memphis, all the clips and all. So the people watching it saying, "Oh, wow, there's another company in Dallas," and you may not have known it, and some people did know it, but you had a different look before you got there. So if they play 4 weeks of tapes before you arrive, you're over when you get there. That's what we did with the Rock and Roll Express. Mm-hmm. We started in Memphis and did all these videos on them, and when they went to, I think they went to Oklahoma, they went to Mid-South, Bill Watts territory. They played 4 weeks of the tapes that Memphis had sent in for them, and they were over the first night they walked in. And I think they beat, I don't know who they beat there. And they took all the tapes that they did in Mid-South territory and sent them to Mid-Atlantic, to the Charlotte territory that we used to call it. And they won the titles the first night in. So they don't even have to get overtime. The tapes do that for you. So when they come in, they're already a draw.
I'm just trying to look at who Rock and Roll Express Mid-Atlantic. One sec.
I think they beat the Russians the first night in, Ricky told me.
Have a look. Forget it, I can't find it. Anyway, let me get the photo up of Drew McIntyre and Jack Perry 1 second. So, keep in mind that they're both sort of at the same level in their respective companies. Maybe Drew McIntyre's, a bit more main event than Jack Perry or promoted as such. But it's like mini-me.
Yeah. And that is he's feuding with, he's got an angle with CM Punk, and everybody knows about Jack Perry and CM Punk. Everybody knows about it. That got a lot of publicity with that tape and all this. And it was Cry Me a River, bitch. And they're using that for the photo, and it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And it doesn't do Jack Perry's career any harm anyway. That helps him too. So everybody was helped. And that's what I like about the companies using their cross-promoting, is what they call it, cross-promoting. And I think it does both of them good. Because here's Drew McIntyre. making fun of CM Punk with Jack, and Jack's getting the publicity. And so you could look ahead and say, Jack Perry, this does him more good than all the Ring of Honor and the AEW stuff that he's done before. I think that does him more good, that picture right there. And now you can say, well, how long will it be before Jack Perry is in WWE? And it doesn't do him any harm.
Now, you think CM Punk would try and block him from going to WWE?
I don't think so. I think it did both of them good, and it got actually CM Punk. Who knows? It could be a big work with him and Jack Perry. I think CM Punk wanted to get fired anyway, and I think he was tired of working for AEW. And this was when all the thing with Vince was blowing up. So when he left, was Vince already in trouble or no?
Oh, in 2023, yeah, I think Vince at that point was out of AEW.
Okay,
yeah,
and and CM Punk wanted to come back, and now he's just acknowledged this past and within the last 2 weeks that he says that he loved WWE when he was there before, except Vince, because they had a lot of. And he said he was burnt out, just completely burnt out. And he left. And he says it had to take all this to get him back. And he says now he's really enjoying his time there. He's actually said he doesn't ever want to leave. He wants to end up running NXT, which I think is a good fit for him. So, and a lot to be said for CM Punk actively trying to get fired, and he did. I think laying your hand on the boss would be a way to get your walking papers.
I made a mistake there. I made a mistake. Vince McMahon was with WWE during the Brawl In or Brawl Out, whatever it's. No, I don't know what it is. The Wembley show, for God's sake, last year. Vince was there at that time. He'd wormed his way back in, and then they kicked him out again. Beginning of 2024 when the Janelle Grant lawsuit came out, I think.
Yep.
It's tough to get this timeline right, I'll tell you. Let me give you just one more thing with CM Punk. He said on Sports Illustrated's podcast, Punk opened up about his feelings about the incidents with the brawl with Jungle Boy. He said, it felt really ugly, but then I was like, showing the footage, this is on AEW Dynamite, isn't going to help them or hurt me. So whatever. Right. Being a top drawer in 2 different companies is pretty wild. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See, he doesn't mind that. And I guarantee you, I'll say one thing for CM Punk. I think he's fairly reasonable. And that did him good too, even though it was a negative thing. And CM Punk's got fans, and they're going to side with him no matter what. And I don't think any damage was caused. Oh, Jack Perry had to go home for a while, but they had to have. Tony Khan had to do something.
It did him a favor though. In the end, it gave him time to retool.
Yeah,
come up with a new character, come up with a new look, learn a new hold. Wasn't that the old saying?
I guess. I don't know. I never had to learn a new hold. I was too busy. I was too busy using my old ones, and I knew I knew 2 moves. A headlock and a punch. That's all I needed. Just take the headlock and just punch them. But see, that's why we could get by with that stuff, because, not doing a lot of stuff like they're doing today, because we had a story.
Did I ever ask you, did you ever have a finisher? Did you ever use like a regular finisher throughout your career?
Yes, I did.
What was it?
Me laying flat on my back for 3 seconds.
It worked out for you.
It did. It worked out. So, but there are some guys, I think you may want to bring this, you were bringing this up about not wanting to put guys over.
That'll be in Ask Dutch Anything this coming Tuesday. Okay. So nice little teaser there. We're gonna bring up CM Punk again in a short while, but I wanted to mention this as well. WWE seems to have pretty much given up on OMOS. The big giant guy, like 7'2".
Yep.
Anyway, he's featured in 3 separate battle royals over the past year. Last being seen in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal back in April of 2024, and aside from some house show matches, that's all anybody's ever seen of him. Apart from, I think his last televised singles match was at Backlash 2023 in Puerto Rico. That's how long we're going back. And where he lost to Seth Rollins. So what's he missing? What's going on?
What's he missing?
Mm-hmm.
The main thing he's missing is talent. He has no talent other than being, 7'3" or whatever he is. Yeah, he's a giant. He really is. But
he's more like just a very tall man. It's like when I think of a giant, I think of the ogre-like face of Andre the Giant.
Yes.
Something like that. I mean, he's a big dude, but when you say giant, he looks more like a basketball player.
Yeah. Well, the only thing he's missing is agility, timing, look, technique, personality. But other than that, he has everything you need to be a superstar.
Charisma.
He's just not going to. I could have told you that the first day that I saw him walk out there. He's too big anyway. That's his gimmick. And if he went out there and tried to wrestle, he would look more ridiculous than he does now. So he's not going to make it. And it took them 3 years to figure it out. And they put him in 3 battle royals that he won none of them, right?
Oh, none of them.
See? So, and putting him OMOS, what do they call him? The African what? Something to
call him fired soon. They won't be calling him at all.
But okay, you're OMOS. Let's all be OMOS for a minute. I don't want to be in for too long. But you got that check every week or every 2 weeks, and you did nothing. You stayed home. See, him traveling, he can't get on a regular plane, and even in a first, he'd have to have 2 first-class seats to even forget putting him in coach. You know, he can't even get down the aisle. He's so big. So there is a drawback on being that big. At least Andre had a little movement to him, not much. But if you watch some of Andre's matches in Japan, he could do a few things. So he may have been half drunk when he was doing them, but he did them. And OMOS, I think that's where we might see him next, is Japan. They'll bring him over, and they just won't wear him out. I think Japan is a better arbiter of whether anybody has any potential or not. And they'll bring him over, and they may use him twice a year for a while, and I think then he'll be done. I don't know what else he can do.
Did you watch that match that I sent you? It was with I put Muhammad Ali. I think it meant Mustafa Ali.
Mustafa Ali.
Yeah. 3 moves.
Well, yeah, but without Mustafa Ali in that match would have no action at all. And I don't even know what program they can do with him, what angle they can do with him. Because I don't think he solicits any sympathy as a babyface. And I don't know, even as a heel, I don't think he has a believability factor about him. So I don't think you could match him up with anyone. Did we talk last week about Bobby Lashley?
We did. Yes, we did.
And I think it's the same problem. Creative. If creative says we don't have anything for you, that's because they just can't think of anything. Sometimes if you're in creative and a name is popped in front of you, what can we do? And they might give you a day to think about it and come back in and give your ideas, what you think you can do with a certain guy. If nothing hits you, and old time Booker told me this one time, he says, when you write the name down and nothing is hitting you, it's time for that guy to move on. And it's not personal. It's all business. But if you can think of nothing to do with the guy, the best thing to do is let him go on and find him another place to go and replace him with somebody you have ideas for. Because he can just tie up a spot on the roster that's not doing him any good and damn sure not doing your company or you any good.
Now, I don't think I remember seeing Omos versus Seth Rollins. I sent you the Mustafa Ali thing.
Yeah.
I remember the Bobby Lashley match not being too bad. WrestleMania last year, I think. But with the Mustafa Ali thing, he does 3 moves. I can't remember what one of them is, but one of them is, and I never want to see a giant do this, a running shoulder tackle. And keep in mind that he's like 18 inches taller than Mustafa Ali. Apart from the fact that it's a stupid move for a giant to do, he had to duck and go like that. He barely touched him. And then he did like that double-handed choke bomb thing, and he couldn't even get him high.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Well, who trained him? I don't think he's been trained, to tell you the truth. How did he even get into wrestling?
It's a good question. I'm going to actually look that up for you right this second. So,
and where is he from?
He is from Lagos, Nigeria. So he just signed with WWE. I think he just passed the performance center tests, of height, and they said, "Okay, well then let's do it." That's it. He's never wrestled for anyone else apart from WWE.
And how long has he been there?
Since 2019, 5 years.
5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done nothing with him.
No, he debuted in late 2020, tagging with AJ Styles.
Oh, get it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to move on.
2019, 2020, that's during the Vince years. And Vince literally loved big monsters like that. He liked that, whether they could work or not. But to get him over, guess what you got to have? You got to have somebody that can actually do something, actually sell his moves, actually perform and move around. And you can tell a story like that for a while, but how quickly does it take that act, that performance of OMOS, to bore the fans? None of his matches went more than 5 or 6 minutes, 7 minutes at the most, because by the time he spent that much time in the ring, he's already shown what he can do. So it's time to go to get a Coke. Mm-hmm. And let's go to the concession stand. It was a concession match every time he went out there.
So just to...
And I'm saying that with the kindest of intentions.
Of course. Battle Royals don't count. 10.5 minutes with Seth Rollins, amazingly. But then everything else is 49 seconds, 1 minute 44. Brock Lesnar went under 5 minutes. I seem to remember that might have been the opener for WrestleMania. 1 minute, 50 seconds, Royal Rumble, 2 minutes 25, 3 minutes. That's the one with Elias that I actually watched as well, 2 minutes 25, and they had nothing but distractions by MVP. They had to stretch it to get to 2 minutes 25 on that one. Anyway, enough about Omos. Let's carry on to the next bit of news that we've got here.
See, even Omos is boring for you to talk about. And we've already talked about him more than his matches existed in time.
9 minutes. 9 minutes.
With who?
We've talked about Omos.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What the hell?
I know. Tell me.
And okay, he went 10 minutes with Seth Rollins.
Yes.
And that was all Seth.
Oh, yes.
It was all Seth putting it together because he has enough experience and enough wisdom to know that this match is really going to suck unless I get off my ass and do something.
Idiot proofing.
Because you can't expect Omos to do anything.
What's idiot proofing a match? How would you idiot proof a match like that?
With who? It was Seth and...
Well, yeah, let's say you're wrestling Omos or whoever, or someone other immobile giant like Giant Gonzalez or Elegante,
Well, I'd have the match with the manager, basically. Is what I do. Mm-hmm. I can't do nothing with him, and he starts laughing. I say, "Well, you bastard!" And I try to go after him, and I'd run around, and he'd run around. I'd slide back in there, and he'd keep messing with me. And finally, at the end, I would have Omos go off his feet somehow, and then all of a sudden, the manager, he grabs at me, but this time I catch him, and I roll him in a ring, and that'd be the only time they'd get up. And I'd punch him a couple of times, boom, boom, boom. Then we do the finish quick and get out of there.
See, that's a true.
And then when I would leave, I'd have a hood and I'd throw it over my head so nobody could tell it was me. And I'd leave. They said, "Who was that masked man that was in there?" And I said,
"Shh, it's Texas Dirt."
Yeah, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Let's move on then. That's 10 minutes for Omos there we gave him. Right, Triple H says Brock Lesnar might well return. Now, this is one of my other predictions. I said that Brock Lesnar would return this year. It's not happened yet, but you never know. TalkSport, this is the write-up from after WrestleMania 40 earlier this year. Paul Levesque, Triple H, said his being Brock Lesnar is the same, his status as it has been before. Brock is not gone from WWE. He is just home being Brock. Now, a further 3 months down the line without a WWE sighting of the Beast, Paul Levesque has dropped the biggest hints yet that the company are at least prepared to continue doing business with Brock. Speaking to Mail Sport, the wrestling great said in response to how close a return might be, you'd have to ask Brock that. But the game did add, he's up in Canada, watching his kids play hockey and enjoying life. If and when he decides that he would like to do something, we'd be open to the conversation. But we'll
prediction.
see.
I got a prediction.
Do it.
He won't be back before they settle the Janelle Grant, Vince McMahon lawsuit.
He'll be 60 by then, though.
I don't care how old he is. Why, are you a stickler on age? How old is Brock?
He's nearly 50 now. 48 maybe?
I don't think we'll see him back before a settlement or some kind of decision is made on the Janelle Grant lawsuit. I really don't.
47. He just turned 47 a couple of weeks ago. So, well, my prediction is he'd be back this year and he'd be back at the Saudi Arabia event.
Well, we're remembering that. And if he is back at when is the Saudi Arabia event?
I don't know. A month or two, September, October, maybe.
Okay.
I think they'll say we want a big star, we want Brock back, and that's where he'll re-debut.
Okay, going to Saudi Arabia is different than going to the United States. It's different. They don't give a crap about that stuff over there. I don't imagine. And if they do, well, tough titty. You know, you're going to have to put up with it. But I think he would still get a lot of negative reaction if he came back in the United States. So
I don't think he would. I genuinely don't. I think it's been long enough.
But let me say this. Anybody that talks about Brock Lesnar would have to add that in, that he was charged with it, right? Or named in it.
He was named in the lawsuit. So yeah, he was.
Has he been charged with anything?
No, he hasn't. No. So the only this is off the top of my head because I've not read the lawsuit in a long time, but I know Brock Lesnar had requested some very rude pictures from Janelle Grant, which she complied with, and apparently maybe Vince was trying to set Janelle up with Brock, and then he didn't go through with it for one reason or another, one of them being that he might have been too drunk to go through with it. So I honestly think...
Well, so really, he is just named in it.
Yeah. There are no filings against him personally. It didn't actually mention his name in the lawsuit, but it said former WWE and UFC heavyweight champion, of which there is one. Or whatever it was. Yeah, so it couldn't have been anyone else.
Okay, have you heard any movement on the settlement?
No. The only thing that we've heard of so far is that after we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, Janelle Grant's side have requested medical documents from the doctor that treated her weekly, it seemed, or monthly, about what drugs exactly they gave her, and Vince McMahon's side has said that the lawsuit's paused, so why is she trying to get these files? That's about it.
Why wouldn't she try to get the files? Just because the lawsuit is paused doesn't mean she can't try to find more evidence. But what I heard about it was the doctor wouldn't even tell her what she was taking.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings up another question now. I just have an empty bottle here. See?
Don't put your address on screen, for goodness sake.
No, it's not on there.
Okay.
But it tells you what it is on the bottle. She couldn't look on the bottle?
Maybe the doctor got it out of his pocket. Just went, slammed it on the table.
You don't know. That's a little bit weird. I hadn't see how my mind works. All of a sudden I think about, wait a minute, you can look on the bottle and it tells you what it is. Cocaine. Oh. So I don't know. But I think we're going to see a lawsuit settlement out of that.
His mustache serum.
Look at there. Anyway.
We will move on. Jesse Ventura returning to WWE.
Good guy.
I know you like Jesse. You've met him a few times. He always said he remembers you. How could he forget you?
I was a signing. No, I met him he came through Memphis. And I had a couple matches with him.
Oh, I didn't know. Did I know that?
Yeah.
I didn't know you wrestled him. Maybe I forgot.
Yeah, I did. I forgot. Hey, I've been hit on the head a couple 100,000 times. When I'm trying to think of a name and I said, I don't know, what's his name? And I'm asking you, I just can't remember the name. Sometimes I got to thank God for Google, because then I can word my question in such a way that the name will come up. So, but Jesse wasn't the most talented wrestler in the world either. He was kind of stiff and kind of like working with a board. And he was a big guy. He's like 6'4", 6'5", cut up and ex-Marine, but likable guy. I mean, he's like, he's talking to you like he's known you 10 years. And that voice, you can't reproduce that voice. So him going back, I think he was talking, I think WWE came to Minneapolis and he went down to the show. And I don't know if he went down on his own or he was invited down, but he was there. And they did have a picture of him in Triple H meeting, which is good. And if he got behind the desk, to me, I'm going to say that'd be a breath of fresh air, because he was a very good color commentator. And I always enjoyed listening to him because he was different. See, what they got at the desk now is almost like two straight guys calling the match. You don't have a Lawler, you don't have a Bobby Heenan, and of course the Jesse Ventura. But those guys throw the color in there and talk off the wall about stuff that really doesn't even have anything to do with the match. It has something to do with the guy or some people in the crowd or whatever they thought about saying. But I enjoyed Jesse Ventura. If they put him back to work, it's fine with me. Now, I was talking to Lawler one day. I said, did you go to the production meeting? She said, I never went. I said, what do you mean you never went? He said, I just didn't go. Because he told Vince one day, Vince, and this is where Lawler is smart. He says, I don't need to see you would have to come early to the tapings that day. You'd have to come about 2:00. Lawler would show up about 6, and he'd park his car in the parking lot, and he'd walk in about 6:00, and they'd hand him a sheet. And I said, you didn't go over nothing? He said, nah, if anything special there, they would, like Michael Cole would tell me or somebody else would tell me. But he said, they just left me out there to call it as it happened. I said, have you been surprised? He said, oh, yeah, a lot of times. But he said, Vince wanted me to call it through Lawler's suggestion, because what he was trying to do was trying to get out of showing up early. I know what he was trying to do. And Vince loved it. He said, great pal, great pal. Just call it the way you see it. Whatever you feel right then. Go ahead and call it. And he did. And he kept that job for how long?
90, I think it was late 92 until this year?
30.
Or last
30
year?
years. 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
Well, he had Lawler told me one time he was driving. This is stupid. Said he was driving from, let's say, St. Louis after a show, and he was going to another town, and he said he went about 150 miles before he knew he went the wrong way. And he had to turn around and drive back through the town that he had just left and go to the other town. And he said he was like 15 minutes before the show when he got there, or something like that. I said, how did you do that? He says, I was just thinking about something else. I said, you're thinking about if you were going to like Kansas City, you know, you wouldn't see a sign saying Kansas City so many miles. He said, I didn't. He said he was deep in thought about something. I said, wow, go on. That's 2 hours out of your way. So, but that's a Lawler story.
Yeah, he was probably trying to figure out who could play Tagar, Lord of the Volcano, or something like that. I don't know.
Stop it.
I'm
going to tell him you said that, you know that.
Yeah, we still don't know who actually played that guy. So some people have suggested names, but I don't know if there's anything definitive out there yet. I'll have a look at the video.
What's his name again? Tagar what?
Tagar, Lord of the Volcano. We watched it like a couple of months ago. It was awful.
I don't think anybody... didn't I get a name for him? But it's just
you
a name.
Suggested a name, but I got quite a few. I'd have to look at the comments of the old video and we'll try and work that out. Right, back to Jesse. So, by the way, I've driven to my old house since I moved from February. I've driven to my old house about 4 times. I just sat there.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You just looked at it.
No. I've driven to my old house thinking I still live there. I forgot I'd moved.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm with Jerry. Man, I can do that like you wouldn't believe. I'm just deep in thought, and I'm just like a homing pigeon.
I can truly say that I never went the wrong way. Because I'm sure this is a town that he'd never been to before. It's brand new. You know, WWE, they don't have any kind of a system where they book towns like the territories. You know, Memphis would be a Monday and Louisville would be a Tuesday, or in Florida, it would be a Tuesday night was Tampa and Wednesday was Miami. You know that. That was your schedule every week. But in WWF case, you know, all these towns are different. So, but he told me he went to about 150 miles out of the way and then had to make a U-turn and go back the same way he came. I never heard a story like that before.
I've never done that 150 miles, but I've done it a number of times. Anyway, 38th governor of Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura, has been welcomed back to WWE with open arms, including a brief video of him arriving at the XL Energy Center at St. Paul, Minnesota, shaking hands with Triple H, probably flying all the way from the Baja. I can't do his impression. I can't do his voice, but later Ventura posted on his Twitter a photo of him shaking hands with CM Punk and chatting with Damian Priest. Screwing up all the names today, writing, "Why did I come back for moments like these and moments like this? It truly was an honor yesterday, meeting the newest generation of wrestlers who are taking the show of shows into a very bright future." So, why is Jesse coming back now? 2024, after all these years.
Well, he had it was Vince. Vince was the one that I think Jesse couldn't get along with. You know, Vince has a very abrasive personality if he wants to be. He can be the friendliest guy in the world, and he can be the most abrasive guy in the world. Because I think they call most guys like Vince, they may call him psychotic because he's not the same guy you meet twice. And I think Jesse, now that Vince is gone, the whole landscape has changed. And even CM Punk, I mentioned him a little earlier, he said the same thing. It's totally, totally different. Now he said it's fun to come to work. Before, and I can agree with him on this, it was really a chore to walk into those buildings because you didn't know what you were walking into. You didn't know what kind of mood you were walking into, what kind of temperament. And whatever mood Vince was in, everybody underneath him was in the same mood. They would be nervous and excited, and not excited in a good way, excited in a bad way, because Vince was on the warpath and raising hell. And I've said before how I could tell the temperature in the room was I would walk by the writer's room, and I could judge by them because they'd already met with Vince. And if they were kind of loose and kind of laughing, Vince was okay. But if they were all tight and quiet, you know, Vince just reamed them out that day. And it's according to what kind of mood Vince is in that the whole crew would be in. Not only the wrestlers, but the whole production crew. All of us, all of them.
CM Punk quote, he says, I saw Governor Ventura the other day, absolutely 100% blown away. One of the coolest things that's ever happened to me in my life is he tells me that he saw I came back, and he said the place must have changed. If CM Punk's back, I'll go back. I can't take credit for it, but I think like a guy like me being back, I think speaks volumes. Obviously, it does.
Sure. It sure does.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to hear Jesse back.
Well,
even as a guest, just on a pay-per-view. See what I mean?
Commentator or backstage?
Yeah.
What, I mean, on screen,
No,
what do you think Jesse could provide now? Because he doesn't watch the product anymore.
Well, nostalgia for one thing, because a lot of people still remember him. A lot of your older fans. Now he'd be exposed to the younger fans. Jesse can talk. He's never been at a loss for words. And I met Jesse, I don't know, a couple of years ago at a convention that I went to, and he came over to the table and, he was talking, how you doing, this, that, and the other. And of course, I remembered him in the old Memphis days when he was just starting out, and he didn't. You don't forget where you've been or who helped you. So I got along with him then, and he didn't forget it, and came over and shook my hand and asked me how I was doing and all this. And I got up and slapped him and said, "Hey, that's for that damn slam you gave me in Evansville."
Hey, did you help him? I mean, you just said, you don't forget the people who helped you. I mean, did you help him in any way specifically?
Well, I helped him during the matches and helped him lay them out, and I had to go out there and see what he could do first. And then
it wasn't much. So
well, what I'm saying is, see, I have to watch him and work with him to see what he can do and what I can do for him. That's what the term working comes into play, because it takes two to make a match. And if I go out there and I'm doing nothing, he's doing nothing, it's going to be a stinking match. So unless I get off my butt and do some things that make it enjoyable or passable, I mean, we didn't have what they call a damn burner, but we had a decent match. The crowd was pretty good that night, or the couple of nights that I worked with him during Memphis's, boom time, or when they was having a good run. And so, I helped him there, helped him in the dressing room, and, and during the match. And yeah, he didn't forget it, and he didn't beat the shit out of me either. So I appreciate that.
We've got two more bits of news, and then we're going to close down this show. Bill Goldberg says that Tony Khan is the male Dixie Carter. So I think that's something that you've said.
Oh, God, I saw that. I went, what the hell is he talking about? I mean, Tony Khan, I don't know how Tony Khan reminds him of Dixie Carter. I don't know. So what did he say?
So, speaking with Chris Van Vliet about the talks with Tony Khan, Bill Goldberg had with Tony Khan, and why they did not go any further, the WWE Hall of Famer gave his thoughts on the company, AEW, and how Tony Khan reminds him of former TNA president Dixie Carter. Here's the quote. I just think we have a different perspective on it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to really pass judgment on their production because I don't watch it. I see clips of it, and it's hard to give a rational breakdown of how they are if I don't really watch it, so I don't really know. He, Tony Khan, reminds me of Dixie Carter, but a male version. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but he reminds me of that scenario. It's just a different feel. It's just different. And then when asked if he and Tony Khan were ever close to making a deal for him to join AEW happen, Goldberg responded that they were not, but admitted that during Sting's retirement run, there was a chance. So here's another quote for you. No, I don't think I was ever close to making a deal with him. I think it was much more a realistic transition when Sting was involved. I reached out to Sting because I wanted to be a part of it. I thought he and I could do a farewell thing at some point together. Maybe Ric Flair could turn heel during it as well and gig himself. But it wasn't about me. It was about Sting. That's something else Ric Flair would never say. And I could never overshadow anything that he does. But I don't want to convolute the waters. It would have been a nice crescendo, but it wasn't about me, so the timing was kind of off. So, let's stick with the Tony Khan, Dixie Carter thing. So I think that's something that we've compared them to before. Have they got... Okay, both from rich families. They both got into wrestling. Any other similarities?
The Carter family is not near as rich as the Khan family, but he was a billionaire. The daddy of Dixie was a billionaire, I've heard. And But I think that's when the similarities kind of end. I think both of them wanted to be stars themselves. Tony wants to be a star. That's why he goes out on TV and he gets involved in some of these things, and that's why he's the spokesman for the company. Dixie wasn't that brazen with it, but she wanted to be acknowledged as the owner of TNA, and she would, every time we would go to Orlando, she would sit in the same seat and they would introduce her. I don't think they would introduce her. They may have introduced her every show because they would put a spotlight on her, and is Dixie Carter, and she's the chief of TNA wrestling. So, but I don't know how else that Dixie and Tony are similar. Tony likes to book, and Dixie Carter, she knew she wouldn't even attempt it. So, but
did Dixie? Okay, because we've talked about this before. So Dixie obviously would, like Vince McMahon, almost take the opinion of the last person who spoke to her. I guess.
Yes,
you said
absolutely.
Before. Did she ever come up with anything on her own as far as presentations for television or a...
No, ever, because she just didn't. She wasn't a show business type oriented person. She would like to watch it, but as far as producing it and what would happen, she did have a match with Bully Ray somehow, and he put her through a table. He put that, what was that? The older woman wrestler he put through a table.
Oh yeah, Mae Young and like
Mae Young. Yeah. My God, I saw that. I went, and she was like 80, and I'm thinking, he put her through a table, and it's even hard to watch. So I don't know why she would do it, but Bully Ray protected her, and I think he did the same thing with Dixie. He put her through a table. So, but I think Dixie wanted to go through the table. She wanted to do something that would, memorialize her in the minds of wrestling fans. So she did that. But I think as far as Tony Khan and Dixie Carter being similar, no, I don't see it. Going back to what Brock said about Sting, I mean, not Brock,
Goldberg,
but Goldberg said about Sting, but it wasn't about me. It was about Sting. Well, yeah, it was his retirement match. And do you think he was talking about being an opponent for Sting?
Maybe he was just talking about
being in his corner.
Yeah, being in his corner like Ric Flair did.
Well, yeah, but see what it was about Sting. He said that twice. So yeah, it was Sting's retirement match. So, and it wasn't about him. I don't think that's why he didn't want to do it. Because if it's not about Goldberg, well, why do it? That's what I think.
I'm going to give you a couple of different things here. Tony Khan actually pays his talent, and not just like the ex-WWE stars. I mean, he pays them a lot as well, but Tony Khan pays or even overpays all the talent. I've heard so many stories from TNA guys who said that they wouldn't even pay him a working wage, basically. They couldn't
TNA guys?
TNA, yeah, unless you were a Sting or a Kurt Angle, so then they'd open the wallet. And especially homegrown TNA wrestlers got paid terribly. It was like even with Stevie Richards. That's why he left. It was 2010. They weren't even paying him a working wage. And, he just thought he wasn't worth it. And then he ended up getting a proper job like so many people do who are in TNA. Mm-hmm. Shelly Martinez was one that I interviewed. She said the same thing. Chris Harris was one that they just weren't paying. Unless you were WWE and a big star in WWE, they wouldn't pay you.
That is true. They would, and I don't know who worked out the payment for these guys. I don't know. But I think Dixie found out somehow what they were making on independence or something like that. And he said, well, we shouldn't pay them anymore. It's actually helping their careers. But you got to have something to live on. And I don't think that if you had to come in and do TV and get a room and eat and rent a car, that's very expensive. I don't think they picked any of that up. Now Sting came in on a hell of a deal. He didn't do nothing. I think he was making $500,000 a year just to make TV. What a deal. And most of the time he didn't even wrestle on TV. Another one that came in was Kurt. I think he made the same amount or more, but at least he would go and he would go on the road. At least he would do that. And Kurt worked his ass off. But that's where the money was going. And when Hall never made it, but when Nash came in, he was paid well. So you were paid basically for what you had done in the past. So I think everybody would like to get a Sting deal. And Tony Khan, he could give Goldberg a Sting deal like he had in TNA or more. But sometimes they have more brains than they have sense. I mean, they have more money than they have brains. So if a guy can talk a promoter into paying me, hey, give me like $10,000 a match and I'll appear on your TV. What a great deal. You get $10,000 to show up, eat the catering, go out, do a 3-minute interview and leave. Great money if you can get it.
One more thing I'll mention, then we'll go into our last story. Dixie Carter, this was after you left. I realize that. Mm-hmm. But, when Hulk Hogan came in and Eric Bischoff came in 2010, and speaking of which, that's why you left in a sense. And then all of a sudden, a little after that, Dixie Carter starts appearing on television more and more and more, to the point that she is the female Vince McMahon. She is one of the main stars of TNA Impact Television. Did you get the sense when you were working with her that she always wanted to be on screen?
Oh, yeah. And who kept her off screen was Jeff. Because Jeff knew that if she got a taste of that, she'd be insatiable. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she wanted to be a big star with power, is what she wanted to be. And I don't see if she could have actually handled it, but she was so green, and her interviews would be more like lectures than anything else, because that's the way she was used to talking to people. She would lecture them. So, and when I saw she went on TV, I said, well, they made a mistake and they won't be able to recover from this. And they weren't. And another thing, it was to actually show her father and her mother that lived in Dallas, that she was a part of the show. So their money was going to make her a star. She never drew a dime. And I remember who quit on TV and Dixie didn't want him to quit? It was Hawk, right?
Yeah, she was like hanging off his ankle.
And she grabbed his leg and he's trying to pull her out of the, I guess they had that. I don't know if they still had that ramp way then, but and that's because Bischoff was the booker at that point. And I don't blame Eric at all. She wanted to be on TV. Go on TV, because he was making pretty good money too. Hey, I'll write you in, and he wrote her in.
Eric would say he wasn't the booker. Said that was more Vince Russo or Hulk or Dixie or whatever. But
well, it may have been.
Yeah, I think they all had a hand in it.
They did, and Eric, they're going to defer to him sometimes because of his WCW roots. But if they wanted, and if Dixie told Vince, I want to be on TV. But Vince already knew that. I would imagine he wrote her in, but he wrote her in a role that she couldn't handle, and it died the life of a dog, of a suffering dog.
So we've said that Dixie always wanted to be a star. Do you think deep down that Tony Khan wants to be a TV star as well? Because he's made a couple of appearances, he's feared for his life. And then he did that pile driver thing where his head missed the canvas by 3 feet. But
without a doubt, he wants to be a big star. Because listen, he said he's been a lifelong wrestling fan. And he wants to be bigger than life, as wrestlers are sometimes, on your big screen. And I think he always envisioned himself in a role like that. So when he got his own company, there was nothing stopping him from going out there and being what he wants to be. I think his limited exposure on TV may have said, well, maybe I'm not as, I don't come across as I want to. So I think some of his appearances have been like, I think he took himself out. I don't know who else could take him out anyway. So Tony takes credit for booking it all, right? Mm-hmm. Does he say anybody else is helping him? He's never mentioned.
Yeah. He's got like a little committee around him. Yeah.
Yeah, but who's on the committee?
I figure Bryan Danielson is on it, and I think there are a couple of other people who names that would be too recognizable.
There's a big difference between being a wrestler and being a booker. Because, you know, you got to think of being a booker, you got to think of other things but yourself. Bryan, and I'm not saying that he's not qualified, but he'll think of things for himself, but he won't, but you got to think of everybody. How many talents on that AEW roster are more or less just forgotten?
Half
of them at least. So I think they could do more with their backstage segments. And that's how cheesy it looks. It just looks, when you look at WWE TV and the way they open up, they got that new opening. It's really, when you're watching it, you're saying, damn. Because I watched it the other night. I hardly ever watch the opening, but I watched it. It comes on like a Broadway show. It smacks you in the face. Hey, look what we can do. And then they lay it down. They open up the show. The lighting is good. The crowd is good. The announcing is clear and concise. The matches are good. They tell good stories. WWE today, and I'll tell you about this email guy. They say you can say that. I mean, you don't have enough kind words to say about WWE, but all you do is trash AEW. And they said, we think you're on the WWE payroll. I wish I was on their payroll, but I'm not. And if I'm going to sit out here and tell people that there's a difference, I need to be telling the truth. There is a huge difference between the two productions, a huge difference. And I don't think you need to be in the business for 30 years to say that. I think you could ask a 10-year-old kid, okay, what show did you enjoy more? And they'll tell you WWE show, because they tell stories. Old Time Booker told me one time, he says, tell stories that even a 10-year-old kid can understand. And then it translates to everybody, and it does. So that's what I always try to keep your angles clear and contained, and don't spread them out everywhere, because when you spread them out, you know, you enter dilution phase and it's hard to get it back.
Do you know, just before we get to the end story, the match I sent you with OMOS versus Mustafa Ali, that was in 2023, right? So yeah. Kevin Dunn was still there. I hadn't realized how much the production had changed in 1 year. And I don't mean just the camera angles. I mean, everything was so red. I know it's Raw, but the apron LEDs were just hard red, and all the LEDs around the ringside were all red, and it was a really red product. And just the color just seemed, I didn't like it. And then, you know, compare that to 2024, it's just a lot more bright, like real life colors, you know, not dominated by one, you know, a blue or a red or whatever the show might be. It's a lot easier on the eye. And I'm not even talking about, you know, all the better camera angles and less cuts and that kind of thing. It's just the colors of the show are a lot better in 2024.
Well, the lighting of the show is much, much better now. much better. Because before, and you look at AEW, their crowd is dark. And you just see that little, whatever it is, the little crowd in front of you. So let's say we have a sellout. I'd want that whole arena. I'd have a spotlight showing that crowd. Because to show success means that, wait a minute, look at the crowd they drew. Sometimes that's very, very impressive. Now, what's impressive for me, AEW, is when they went to London, they sold out that stadium. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. But how many people you think they'll do this year? I asked you this a couple of weeks ago.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think they're at 43,000 now. I don't really think they're going to get to 50. I don't. They'll probably get 46, maybe, if the numbers I'm remembering are right.
Now, where do you get 46? You think they only get 3,000 fans? Isn't their show like next 2 weeks?
Yeah, because I don't feel the excitement for it at all.
So even people you talk to on the streets, if you talk to anybody on the street,
well, people on the street won't be talking about wrestling anyway. But no, none of my friends care about wrestling at all.
Yeah.
I'm the only one. Yeah, you have to talk about it. No, I don't talk to anyone about wrestling. This is my wrestling therapy,
Well, you do a good job. You do a really good job. I think they do 50,000, maybe a little more, I think. But I'm just projecting. I can project anything. But judging from what they did last year, and it was brand new. They'd never been there before. So, but the house they had last year surprised me. It really did. But I don't know what they're going to do this year. But England and the UK was always a strong, strong market for WWE, as was Europe. Strong market. So, and those were tours that were enjoyable because I'd never been to London before because I didn't see nothing. The hotel room, as I saw most of the other big towns I've been to. But they run you like a dog there. You don't have time to get out and see anything because you're spending so much time sleeping and recovering from the night before. But I enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the fans there. Very energetic, and they knew what was going on, and they were loud. Where was the crowd so loud for WWE?
We're loud for everything.
Yeah, but it was France.
Yeah.
Leon, or what's the name of it?
Yeah.
They said they were just through the roof. So, but that's what happens when you go to a virgin town. You've never been there, and this is their chance to see it. And they go out there and they're so happy to be there that they're just loud and they're in a good mood.
The last
but
information.
If you put, guess what? You put OMOS on first, your crowd goes, oh, yeah. It was exciting before we saw that.
Think of how many Coca-Colas they'll sell. WrestleTix says, and this is back a few months ago, tickets distributed 40,434. I don't think they'll get to 50,000. That's my guess. Anyway, we are running out of time on the show, so I'll give you the last bit of news, then we'll close it down. Sammy Guevara, a conspiracy theory with Sammy Guevara. You love a conspiracy, I know you do.
I love it.
So, you remember Sammy Guevara the last time we saw him, we covered it on the show. He was doing a shooting star press and he landed knee first into Jeff Hardy's nose and splattered all over the place. Jeff Hardy was out for months, and guess what? Sammy Guevara was out even longer because Tony Khan suspended him for such a thing, not because of the botch, but I think it's because he went against protocol and tried to carry on the match afterwards. Anyway, he got suspended. He came back. Keep in mind he was with AEW. He came back at a Ring of Honor taping on July 28th. First time in 6 months to save Dustin Rhodes from a beatdown from the Dark Order. So, here's the conspiracy. A few years ago, he was sent to sensitivity training because he made a comment, a ribald comment regarding Mercedes Moné and his attraction towards her. And the theory goes that he was only allowed back to do Ring of Honor tapings because Mercedes Moné doesn't want him anywhere near a locker room where she is. Do you think that could be realistic? Someone else also wrote in, do you think Sammy Guevara or someone else like that being sent to Ring of Honor is a demotion? I was like, yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, it is a demotion. Because I doubt if Tony's spending that much time on Ring of Honor. It is. Do they have a TV deal?
Nope.
Well, yeah, it's a demotion. I don't even know why he even keeps him if he's not going to use him. And what he said about Mercedes Moné is stupid. Who would say that in an interview? He said, I want to rape her, right? Is that what he said?
Yeah, so this is back from like 2016 or something like that. He said it, and then 4 years later, these comments resurfaced. Tony sent Sammy to, 4 years after the fact, to sensitivity training. He got suspended over that. And now 4 years later, they're both in the same company, but apparently not exactly in the same company.
Well, Mercedes, I don't blame her for getting upset because, but this is the thing about women in wrestling. They go out there and they're half naked, as are the men. And now what Sammy said was way beyond what he should have said anyway. He said that maybe if he'd have said she's a very attractive woman, I don't know why he said rape. I don't know. I would never say something like that because that's a violent act. And if you have to rape a woman, that means she doesn't want to do it. What fun is in that? If you happen to fight her, hell, have a match too and then have sex. I don't get it. But sending him to sensitivity training, you know what that did? Nothing. Because when he left the session, he probably thought the same way. I don't know. I think he was young when he said it. He shouldn't have said it. I think he would even admit that then. But that sensitivity training, I think Tony did that just to say he did something. It's what I'm thinking. But I don't think it did him any good. Now, didn't he marry some girl lately, the last couple of months?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know which one. I'll find out.
Right.
But, okay, while I'm finding that out anyway, here's what Bryan Alvarez has suggested, that in fact, that's not the case. So he says, I know that everybody has immediately jumped to the following conclusion, that he was moved to Ring of Honor because Mercedes Moné is on the main AEW television show. Alvarez continued, I was told that him being on Ring of Honor has absolutely nothing to do with Mercedes. I mentioned that to some people and they were like, there's no way it has to be. All I can tell you is this, Sammy has been ready to go for a little while and they didn't have a storyline for Sammy Guevara to be brought back to the main roster. What did you say? Creative has nothing for you. What does that really mean?
Well, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all. But I heard what he did. They wanted him to lose, and he didn't think he didn't agree with that. If I was the booker and I wanted him to do something and he said no after all the guys that have put him over, I'd say, well, you need to go find another job. Find another job where you're going to be the big star, and then we'll both be happy. And I'd send him packing that day. Listen, if you're in charge of something, and say you're running a construction crew, and you tell somebody, I want you to help dig ditches today. Well, I don't want to do that. Oh, you don't? Okay. You can finish up.
Mm-hmm.
And let him go, because he's hired to do a job. And whether it's going over or losing, and we'll all have to do it at some point to get somebody else over. And he's not a big guy. I don't think he's drawn any big money. So he's in no position to tell anybody, or especially the boss and the guy paying him, that he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, let me just clarify what I said before. I think I might have messed it up slightly. I said they did have a storyline for Sammy Guevara, but he was not cool with an aspect of the storyline they came up with him. And I think it involved him turning heel, and he didn't want to turn heel, whatever it was. So it's just like, dude, you've already been suspended twice. It's hardly, as you say, you are not in a position to be turning down stuff. So off to Ring of Honor purgatory you go.
Well, but see, he doesn't learn anything because Tony he won't fire him. He won't just, and he's got the contract. He's going to get paid anyway. So what damage are you doing to Sammy Guevara? Nothing. He can sit home and pick up his check until his contract runs out. But if Tony writes contracts where they can turn down suggestions for them to perform on the TV, and he's an actor, you either do it or you stop getting paid. That's the only incentive for wrestlers to do things, is they're going to be paid. Who would do something for nothing? Nobody. But this is a result of Tony's leadership, and I think for him to turn it down, to turn heel, oh, he don't want to turn heel, he don't want to do that. Oh, okay, well, and I would say right now, judging from AEW's past experiences with doing this, I think it would kill him off anyway. More now than he is.
So his wife is Ty Conti, and she's also signed to AEW, and she's not appeared on AEW TV in a match since March of 2020. No, I'm sorry, January of 2023.
Damn. So they're sitting at home, and they're picking up probably $5,000 to $10,000 a week between them. Well, maybe not that much. Picking up at least $5,000 a week, not leaving the house. What a deal.
And Ty Mello, Ty Conti, she gave birth to a daughter on November 28th, 2023. So, at least she didn't wrestle in 2023 because she was pregnant, but she's not gone back in nearly a year since. So, there you go. Anyway, we're going to close down this show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again on Tuesday. If you want to write into the show with a question that you want me to pose to the Dirty Dutchman, it's questions for dutch@gmail.com. But until then, we'll see you on Tuesday. Dutch, we the people.
We the people. See you then.